Okay. Mineral streets. Lots of conspiracy terminology to be used for these mineral streets. Yes, it's all important, but I've been trying to show you guys this. Anybody that listen, family, friends, YouTube people, Facebook, went through a lot of family and friends on Facebook years ago, trying to show everybody the system. Even before I found the true creator and the false creator slash creator's work, I was trying to show everybody what they call mineral streets, what I call mineral streets. They call all kinds of conspiracy names that were put out there by the CIA. That's why I don't even like using them. That's why all my videos, when I'm showing the sky, will say condensation trails, and this is what condensation trails are. It gives you the Encyclopedia Britannica's version of what they want you to think that it is. And they want you to go down all the rabbit holes. But the important thing is what I'm about to play. This is Richard. This is Richard's video, Richard Vobes. I'm still working on the series to Richard. And anybody coming to these videos of mine, you have to understand I'm showing you the mineral streets. Yes, there is a mineral street project being carried out by humans, but I'm also at the same time trying to take advantage and show you that you can see the true creator's work in everything. The moon, the clouds, the grass, the trees, human skin, the waters, the waves, the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, the rocks, stones, flowers. You can literally see it, and what you're going to see are, number one, the builders. All triangular builders work for the true creator. They're everywhere in here. We are swimming in them. We are them. When our bioshell falls and hits the ground, we go back to the system. And when there's a whole thing I've learned just in the last couple of years about the moon and the moon turning through the sky and assigning energies to the bio realm, all energies to the bio realm at those significant times as the moon's turning through the sky. There's a whole thing behind it. My point is I'm about to play these guys, and even though I like this guy a lot, the guy that Richard's going to play right now, but he's not seeing the true creator and the true creator's work. The images that you're going to see that the true creator build over and over and over again are feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. Faces only, also knowing that there are body images also, and I can explain what I mean by faces only, and then how is their body imagery, and if there's faces only. I'll explain as I go along. There's a lot to explain because we've all been taking down these roads for so long, these falsities, and we all believe that we're on a spinning wet pararocket ball, and then for hundreds of years we believed other falsities based on religions and everything like that. And anyways, I'm going to play these guys, and then Richard, just let you know, maybe Richard's not picking up my energy. Maybe he's not using the true creator's energy the way I had thought he was. I'm listening to him again now. I'm going to listen to him with this guy here talking about the mineral streets. But you're, again, Richard, I'm going to say, when you do finally come to these videos, then if you really haven't yet, I find that hard to believe, but maybe. When you do finally come, come on. What's going on? It's working slow for some reason. You're not going far enough with anything. So now you're just now picking up on the mineral streets. Well, the mineral streets were 20 years. What this guy's about to tell you is all true, but the one he's missing a lot. He's missing a lot. Number one, he's missing the true creator, false creator, slash creator. He's missing all that, but he's also missing the fact that we've always been controlling the weather. It's not just since after World War II we started experimenting. No, no, no. We were always doing it. In fact, we were lied to as usual. You can look at our past, and you can see that the Native Americans were certainly using weather control. They were certainly doing that. And we called them crazy, and we said they were dancing around a fire and this and that small fire. We lied about it all. We lied. And they even lost their culture. And that's maybe one of the reasons why we killed them off as badly as we did. Same thing with other cultures. Maybe they still were carrying on some of those traditions when we were a little more electrical, even though, because it wasn't a matter of a small dancing around a small fire that was going to do it. It was a matter of look what they were putting in. The native Indians of Americans, just as soon as a few hundred years ago, were still using. That's why I'm wondering about what this guy is saying. The amount of aluminum, because they were at that time using aluminum, strontium, maybe not aluminum, but if they were, I don't see how they could get away from it because of what they were burning. In other words, the trees are the ones that are soaking up all the heavy metals and minerals. So there are a certain amount of aluminum particulates that the trees are sucking up from the ground because, of course, water runs into the ground off the rocks and brings all the heavy metals and minerals into the tree's roots, and the trees soak it up, and then we, as humans, burn the trees, and we light California on fire, for example, and you burn up the side of California, and then you're going to put up all the particulates that you need in order to have rain, snow, and all these things. So these things were all controlled, and they were controlled for quite a long time. Let's listen to these guys for a little bit. The next 10 videos is all going to be about mineral streets. I'm going to get away from the moon. I've learned so much about the fucking moon. It's unbelievable. I'm not even calling it the moon anymore. I'm coming up with a new name. It is not a moon. To call it a moon is an insult. It's an insult to the false creator / creator and all the work that they do. It's unbelievable how fucked up we are.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for joining me on another of my interview series. Today I'm talking to a man a number of people of my viewers have been asking for, so diligently I have managed to track him down. Apparently he's off-grid somewhere in North California. So it's my great privilege to bring to
just for the hell of it, I'm going to put on a
Dane
wide angle with the
Now,
green
before I bring
filter
him in,
that I
let me
glue
just
gunned
tell you a
on there.
little bit
See how
about Dane.
shitty
I've
cheap
got
my equipment
his
is?
bio here. It says here, Dane is the lead researcher and administrator for the website geoengineeringwatch.org and is the executive producer for the groundbreaking climate...
Okay, I'm just going to mention that, Richard, the last 3 videos, the reason why you're pissing me off so bad listening to you lately is all your planet spacey nonsense. We were lied to. We were lied to. It's going to be hard for you to face. I understand that, but that's the way it fucking goes. But every other word out of your guy's mouth is a globe this and world war this and world that, and you got to get away from it. We were lied to about everything, not just about this, not just about that. And where the fuck was everybody? Because for 20 years now, there's been a few thousand people out there who all been disowned by their families about talking about the mineral streets, calling them the conspiracy names that you're calling them, chemtrails and geoengineering and all this kind of geoengineering. Think about the terminology. You and your buddy the other day were talking about fake terminology. Think about the terminology, geoengineering, right? So you're not. Are we living on a spinning web pararocket ball, or are we not? You know, why does the United Nations claim one thing and then, in the same breath, collect taxes in the form of billions and trillions of dollars to go doing space expositions and all kinds of bullshit stories and satellite dishes and outer space and fucking stupid shit, man, you know? But here you are going right along with it. I don't get that part
engineering documentary, The Dimming. His background in solar energy and was a former employee of Bechtel Power Corporation, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, and was a licensed contractor in California and Arizona. Dane's devoted the last 20 years of his life to a constant research on the issue of covert global climate engineering operations and the effort to expose and halt them. So that sounds very interesting. We know that our skies are dimming. We sense that. We see the aeroplanes going across and we see all these chemtrails. What's it all about?
Yeah, see.
There's only one man to ask, and he's here. I'm very pleased to say, hello, Dane.
Hello, Richard. Thank you very much for the invitation and your willingness to investigate the global climate intervention issue.
Well, I think a lot of people are waking up to all sorts of things that have been going on, not least as a lot of people have been sort of saying, oh, what's going on in our skies? Are we being sprayed with stuff? Are they controlling weather?
For how
What
long?
is going on? So let's delve into that a little bit. I was impressed when you said you're living off grid. I think a lot of people these days would like to be well away from a lot of the things like 5G and things that are coming. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got into this, and then we'll find out what it is that is going on.
I grew up in a very smoggy Southern California, and it was my life's mission to get out of that. So when I eventually reached the wilderness of Northern California and built a large off-grid home, and that's part of what I did for Bechtel Power was the alternative energy. I worked on some of the first commercial solar plants in the U.S. in the middle of Mojave Desert. But upon reaching Northern California, completing this off-grid home with wind, hydro, and solar power being the primary power source, I was losing extraordinary amounts of solar power from whatever these aircraft were emitting, literally blocking out the sun. Some days, 70–80% of my solar power was lost because of what the aircraft were emitting. Now, that doesn't mean a 70 or 80% loss of visible light, but it means a loss of direct sunlight. And solar power does not function, PV panels don't function with that. So I began to research, found the issue of climate engineering, solar radiation management, which the stated purpose is to put light scattering particles into the sky to block some of the sun's incoming thermal energy to slow down the warming of the planet. That's the stated purpose.
See, planet.
And when I began to lab test my
Yeah.
precipitation to see if some of these climate engineering elements were in the rain, indeed they were, starting with aluminum. And I was dismayed to find that.
Everything is built in the feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. Everything in here is built that way. Been looking for about 6 years now. Go look at that. Anyone that comes to these videos, go look at what I'm showing you. Which way are these clouds rolling? And you're gonna see it in everything, everywhere. You're gonna see it. It's not a me thing. It's all of us thing. We were all lied to, and it's gonna be pretty incredible when you come to thinking about it and you get to understanding it. Yes, it is seem very incredible that we could all be so intelligent to miss what's right in front of our own faces all this time. You know, hundreds of years at least, thousands possibly, tens of thousands for sure.
And I hoped I wouldn't find that in my lab test. I continued testing, and the amounts kept going higher and higher and higher until within 18 months of the initiation of my testing, I had single rain events as high as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum, and that's extraordinarily toxic rain. What was I to do, Richard, except to face this issue that was poisoning literally everything, including every breath I take? So that's what started me on this journey.
Wow, that's quite shocking to. Now, I know that there'll be a portion of the audience who already know the sort of basics. I'm coming to this completely fresh, so you'll have to excuse my naivety, and of course my reactions if I'm slightly shocked by all of this. Is this? I mean, presumably, is this a deliberate thing, or is this just part of aircraft? The fact that it's flying around doing what they do, and it's a byproduct.
Very important question. No, this is not a byproduct of combustion. And in regard to the trails themselves, the condensation trail narrative, which is an absolutely false narrative, we have up-close film footage of these aircraft at altitude taken from another aircraft behind the aircraft being filmed, nozzles visible, turning on and off. End of the discussion. This is not condensation. And we know further, Richard, that all military tankers and all commercial carrier aircraft are fitted with what's known as a high bypass turbofan jet engine. That's a jet powered fan. 90% of the air that moves through that engine is not combusted. It's designed for fuel efficiency. So that engine by design is nearly incapable of producing any, quote, condensation trail except under rare and extreme circumstances. So again, if people don't believe what they see with their own eyes, and the film footage that we have at geoengineeringwatch.org under the jet spraying section, if they don't believe what they see with their own eyes, these up-close film footage, nozzles visible turning on and off, there's nothing I can show or tell them that will make them face this issue. But the fact is, this is not condensation. These are sprayed payload dispersions of climate engineering elements, aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants. We now know from our most recent 100 lab test, even graphene is in the range. So this is a very toxic brew that's being dispersed as part of these operations.
Gosh. Okay. And is that going across all of the globe or in certain areas? Do we know?
The operations are global. Some areas are hit harder than other areas, depending on how the weather patterns function through those areas. For example, in Northern California, we're hit particularly hard because the weather for the country historically has moved through this region. It comes from the Pacific Ocean. So that seeding takes place as the moisture moves over the continent, if you will. So, and as far as global cooperation, this is very important. You can't just geoengineer over your own country without affecting the entire world. So there has to be global cooperation. In fact, there is. We have posted at geoengineeringwatch.org government documents, Senate documents. In fact, one particular Senate document, 800 pages long, going back to the late 70s, that outlines this global cooperation even between otherwise adversarial nations. This document further calls for total blanket legal immunity for anyone and everyone involved with these programs, because once you disrupt the weather system, every single weather cataclysm then becomes suspect and a potential liability.
So, presumably, so let me go back. How long has this been going on for?
We know from historical data that these programs were first deployed at scale over the polar regions immediately after World War II. So, Richard, you may remember seeing all the film footage of the World War II bombers leaving massive condensation trails, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you've seen this, I'm sure, in film footage. Many people bring this up. We found on U.S. military archival footage, we found film footage of one B-17 filming others in formation above them, some leaving massive trails, others leaving nothing, and one directly above the filming aircraft, leaving a massive plume, was shut off instantly in air as if it was cut with a knife. That plane didn't fall out of the sky. Its engines didn't die. It was clearly dispersing something. They would have had to have been beta testing in World War II in order to deploy immediately after World War II. And we had other...
Yeah, but the problem with that, though, I'm going to learn this guy's name. He seems like a nice enough guy. The problem is that 7.8 billion zombie slaves have all known this the whole time. There have been several thousands, including myself, who've come out to family, friends over the last 15, 20 years about the Mineral Street projects, and we were disowned by our families for questioning it. The government's told them that it was a lie, and then I'd say, okay, well, you know, you're saying they say it's a lie, but they've got this Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050 even, we knew about back in 2008, 2007, 2008, we started getting that information, we started knowing what was what. So if the 7.8 billion zombies are refusing to wake up, then aren't they just getting what they want, right? Come up here with this. Doesn't seem like I'm getting too bad of a glare. So, you know, when I'm listening to you talk, you definitely know your shit, but think about it. So you're talking about, you got on video one jet that's stopping its trail in midair, and that's your evidence for the 7.8 billion zombie slaves to wake up and look up, right? And think about it. I mean, I used to get so pissed off because everyone was doing this. We got Richie from Boston in Boston, Massachusetts. He's another big one. There are some of the biggest chemtrail people on the internet that are all being run by CIA, PSYOP, bullshit stories, and they're really good. They're really good. They seem sincere. The terminology they use is made so that anybody else hearing it, like someone like myself, listens to it, and I would normally, if I wasn't already awakened to all the other lies, then I would normally say, oh wow, I could see where this could happen, and I could see where that could happen, and yeah, actually, they even admit doing these things. But then once you're further awake, you realize, oh, they're what they call straw men. kind of thing. So they're just being set up there to, so that when you do go to your family and friends and you say, yeah, you know, we're getting bombarded. I mean, I counted 10,000 trails today. They all walk away from you. People who raised you, who loved you, you loved them, and they walk away from you because they say, now you're insane. You're seeing things in the sky. You're seeing these long trails. Yeah, they're called airplanes, dipshit. You know, and that's what we get. That's what we get over and over and over again. 7.8 billion zombie slaves, telling you.
Other aspects of climate engineering that were first stated on the record after World War II, for example, Project Cirrus, the U.S. military's effort to manipulate hurricanes, started in 1947. So the bottom.
Before we were dumping it out of jets, we had the industrial revolutions. You say a couple of things that you're about to say. You're about to talk about China. China does not lay their mineral streets out in jets the way that we do. They can. They have the technology, of course, but they're under their industrial revolution. So they're putting the heavy metals and minerals up that way. They don't need to spray them out of jets. Why waste the money? They don't need to.
Bottom line is all these puzzle pieces connect perfectly. In regard to the aluminum, we had Stanford University reporting in their polar studies, they were seeing a polar haze that had aluminum particulates in it, and they couldn't figure out where that was coming from. So again, we have all of these elements fitting together perfectly, and certainly why would we expect that they wouldn't do this? Would they ask our permission for?
The United Nations had planned this out, and they wrote about it, and they talked about it. They tell you exactly how it works. They tell you all the heavy metals and minerals they're using, all the synthetics that they're using, included in those minerals. There's no fucking secrets about it. It's not a matter of people not knowing. It's a matter of the 7.8 billion zombies do not want to know. They want to continue in their comatose state until they're taken out. And they'll be taken out this way, I guess. It's really sad to watch. And, again, Industrial Revolution, and before the Industrial Revolution, we had times in our history when you can look back and you can see that the natives were controlling the weather, controlling the rain, the snow. They knew how to do it. They knew what heavy metals and minerals, in other words, what trees were soaking up what heavy metals and minerals. So if you go to one mountain and you know that it's high in silvers and golds and things like this, and you know what kind of heavy metals the tree is going to be soaking up, you light that forest up, you light that place up. You say, oh, we haven't had any rain in a while or whatever, and you can fuck with the system that way. But if you go back even further to tens of thousands of years ago, oh my God, when we were more electrical, oh my God, no, it'd fucking blow the shit away. That's what I'm trying to get everybody back to, realizing that we actually can use the true creator's energy ourselves. We're part of it, and we could all be using it, and we don't.
First, I think not. Did they ask our permission to detonate 2,400 nuclear bombs without public consent? And they did that. And certainly we know there's so many other items in this category that they don't ask for public permission for anything they do they?
No, absolutely. So there's no way, because as soon as you start mentioning this to anybody, people who are skeptical, I suppose because they believe that, or the world has made them think that it would be absolutely impossible for something like this to happen. It would be so far-fetched that it seems barking. And so their argument is, of course, it's vapor trails. So let's just deal with that. Do aeroplanes, aircraft, leave what we see as those very clear in the sky twin vapor trails as they...
So for you to be asking this question, Richard, shows me just how far behind the 7.8 billion zombies are. No one will look. I've been trying to show everyone for a long time. They will not fucking look, right? And here you are, all these years into it, with your, a man of the world, walking around outside doing your explorer videos, and you never noticed. You never noticed. You can't talk with confidence about what they're using, the colors, the jets, the sounds they make, the silver bellies, the upper atmosphere sprays different from the lower atmosphere sprays. You can't look back on memory and tell me, okay, when did we start turning our skies silver and white, changing the condition of our sun rays? What this guy's about to talk about with the UV rays, he's actually wrong about that. It's actually opposite of that. They're blocking out UV rays. They're blocking out bad rays, and they're changing the condition of our sunlight, and they're changing it, like I explained in earlier videos that probably got deleted, is they're turning us into an LED, more or less, our atmosphere, rather than the old halogens and other lighting that we went through stages of getting to this point now, where they're turning us into a blue-white light. Kind of like the same complaints about the computer, why the kids are all going fucking blind and being so intelligent nowadays, right?
They go across.
Well, again, ask people to exercise their own sense of reason. And how would you see on a day where you might see an aircraft leaving these trails? And again, we have up close photographs as well of the nozzles, retrofit nozzles mounted on the wing pylons, aimed into the exhaust jet stream to make this look like condensation. But it doesn't take a lot of deductive reasoning to say, well, why is there a grid pattern in the sky one day, nothing the next? If you observe closely, and we can from my remote location because we can hear these aircraft.
But they won't look. They will not look. That's the problem. They're in denial. They think they're on a spinning wet fucking rocket ball, and space aliens are gonna come down and take them out anytime now, and they're ready to go to their god, space alien gods. They're all ready for it. 7.8 billion of them. It's unbelievable. So the few 100,000 of us that are maybe waking up around this earth, ain't gonna do shit.
There's no other noise pollution. And you can see one aircraft leaving a trail from horizon to horizon next to another aircraft, same altitude, same category of aircraft, leaving nothing. And again, the film footage up close of the nozzles visible turning on and off is very telling. And let's add this to the equation. We have virtually the entire global climate science community and governments all over the world stating that we need to geoengineer. That's the science term for this. And I encourage people, if they're trying to research this or bring the issue up to others, use the science terms. That brings credibility. Climate engineering, geoengineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection. But under all these categories, what these involve or entail is aircraft spraying nanoparticle dispersions into the sky to mimic the cooling effect of a volcano to provide temporary cooling for the planet. That's the definition of solar radiation management. And again, every single puzzle piece we already have. But the entire global climate science community is calling for these programs to be deployed immediately to avert planetary cataclysm, when in fact, after 75 plus years of these programs ongoing, we know it's already fueled cataclysm, not mitigated it. But isn't it absurd, Richard, that we have, again, governments around the globe, official agencies, elected officials, climate scientists calling for putting jets into the air to spray dispersions exactly like what we see with the exact elements that are showing up on the ground, and yet they pretend that this is some sort of wild conspiracy theory. Is that not absurd?
Well, it certainly sounds completely absurd. I was going to ask you whether they deny that this is happening, and we'll get on to who they are, really, but presumably science, I mean, clearly you're not the only one who's observed all of this and thought, hang on, there's something a bit dodgy going on, and taken measurements and studied it. There must be people across the world who are clamouring for this, if only it was just dimming the skies, but also presumably these particles, like aluminum, or aluminium as we would say, is dangerous for health, extremely dangerous. So my question is, there must be scientists who are clamouring to say, please don't do this. Why are you doing it? And where is the rebuttal?
Okay, you are correct on every level. First, there are increasing amounts of pushback from the climate science community stating this would be a horrific idea. We shouldn't do this, but still pretending that it isn't ongoing. In regard to aluminum, or aluminium, as you would call it, you are completely correct again. It is harmful, extraordinarily harmful to all life forms, period. And although aluminum, and this is the sort of skepticism you see from some, aluminum or aluminium is a very prevalent element in the Earth's strata, and some claim we should expect to see it everywhere. That is patently false. Freeform aluminum, key term, freeform aluminum, does not...
Okay, so he's got all these great points, but I'll point out too that we also allow our babies to be shot up with a lot of heavy metals and minerals that they do not need and should not have. And that's been a few generations already. We've been doing that for, I don't know, 75 years or something like that. Modern medicine has brought all these really bad things into play. And you're talking about aluminum, the dangers of a big fucking deal that they're putting in the sky. It's in the sky, so therefore it's in the water, it's in the food because it's landing all over on the ground. They can change the mixture so that certain particles are heavier so that they come down, and other particles are lighter so they go up and block the sun. And they got it all worked out, but it's not a recent thing. It's been this way for thousands of years. They just have another way of doing it. They have their airfoil manipulation. They call it airplanes and stuff like that. They call it airfoil manipulation. It's or that's what they consider it. It's really not. It's electromagnetics, and that's why airplanes are made out of metal. And you think about it, metal is very fucking heavy. Even the, it's not like, even when they come up with small engine planes, right? You had a combustion engine with a propeller, airfoil manipulation with the wings, and that was real true airfoil manipulation because those planes were made out of fiberglass, and even before fiberglass, kind of wood and other things like that, and thin metal over wood and stuff like that. But mercury is the point I'll make, is one of the big ones that no one even pays attention to. So, aluminum, okay, but they shoot us up with aluminums from birth, right at birth. We're getting big doses of all the heavy metals, all of them. Ones that we don't need, ones that our liver will soak up, and our liver gets so impacted as such small little babies with all the shots they give us that your liver is immediately impacted, compacted, blown up. And filled, because that's what the body does. It takes if you're overloaded with heavy minerals and you can't get rid of them fast enough, body's not going to shut down your liver, soaks them up and protects you from them. And then that's exactly what they do. And the mercury's the same shit. And they're using the carbon system, not bugs, not, it's the carbons that are the layer that actually are affecting all of the crops and all that kind of shit. Yes, the biometallus are bad too, but the nanometallus and the nanoless metallus are carbon creatures. They're absorption and secretion creatures, the same way I'm telling you about the rocks and the stones and a lot of other things, actually. Trees, or even think about it, absorption creatures. That's why I'm saying the trees are not really our friend. They, not in the way that we use them, they're not our friend. They're causing a fungus and a mold all over the earth, along with what they're doing in the atmosphere. It's a big game plan, and they've been doing it for a long, long time. And every time they want to do one of their resets like they're about to do now, when we come back up the next time, we'll be even more intelligent than this time. And watch out, man, because I don't know, man. It seems like
does not exist naturally in the environment, period. In order for it to be freeform, it must have been mined and refined and dispersed. And in fact, that is exactly what we were finding. And we took this to the degree of, we spent an extraordinary amount of resources with extraordinary effort. Our team at geoengineeringwatch.org took a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration flying lab with top scientists in it to altitude and sampled what heavy aircraft were emitting in our skies. We processed that sample at Rinster Polytechnic University, one of the world's most renowned.
Yeah, you know how many people have done what he just said? Thousands and thousands of people. You know how many of them are CIA? Thousands and thousands of them. And even the ones that don't even realize that I'm agents, let's just say agents, because they're not all CIA. They're all different agencies, and there are so many agencies that you fucking go crazy thinking about them all. So, yeah, they're all out there telling everybody all this and making sure that the 7.8 billion zombies stay in their comatose state. So, what he's saying, that he's come a big fucking deal. I can name off 20 different, I got him I can picture them in my mind, the people that run the channels. But I don't keep them in memory all that much, because I found out that they were all full of shit.
Found exactly what we...
Jamie Lee from A Plain Truth, Richie from Boston, he's got about 20, 30 runoffs. There's the older couple that, there's actually several older couples who really seem sincere about it, but they do this big production and they go in front of these town hall meetings. They get 3 to 5 minutes to speak. All the town members, board members, whoever, wherever they are, they're all laughing at them and they're laughed at and smiling and everything. Okay, we'll check it out. So you're saying that there's all these trails all over the sky? Okay, buddy. Okay, lady. Well, thank you very much for letting us know. I mean, as if the 7.8 billion zombies can't look up for themselves. Their family and their friends have been fucking coming out and telling them for years, and all they do is laugh at them and disown them. And tell them, oh no, you're not seeing what you can see. You fucking idiots, man.
Knew we would find climate engineering elements starting with aluminum. So again, this is all available on the geoengineeringwatch.org groundbreaking documentary, The Dimming, which we posted for free the moment it was done. And in regards to those who claim there would be whistleblowers everywhere if this was going on, not true. One, these programs are highly compartmentalized. Would we expect that the U.S. military pilots in Vietnam that were spraying Agent Orange were told that this will kill your comrade on the ground? Of course they weren't told that. They were all compartmentalized. And two, we have an illegal federal gag order, Richard, on the nation's weathermen in the United States. National Weather Service and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have an illegal federal gag order on them. Why would the government do that if there wasn't something extraordinary to hide?
Yes, absolutely. So, do we know who is responsible for this?
Ultimately, all roads lead to the central bankers, those who print the money. This is why the fight right now for the dollar as the global reserve currency in the United States is going down in flames because the rest of the world has had enough of the U.S. dollar hegemonic power. And so, but again, when they can fund whatever they want with as much resources as they want, the Pentagon officially is missing, I believe, that we know of about $31 trillion since the late 90s. Where did they get that additional 31 trillion, let alone to have it go missing? Again, they've been able to print whatever they want for whatever they want, and the planet and its people have wrought the consequences of that. That's why the U.S. has a military machine that's bigger than the next 10 biggest militaries combined. And the result of that, what we see now, and their ability to, and this is an important part of climate engineering that people need to understand, their ability to create surface cool downs with what's called chemical ice nucleating elements. So what we have, it's happening right now in the U.S. It's been happening over decades, but it's happening right now. It's a stunning example of it. We have areas in parts of the northern states of the U.S. that have gone from snow to 90 plus degrees, record-shattering highs, 10 degrees above the former all-time record, and they're going back to snow this week. Try to imagine that. Again, I'm talking about Fahrenheit, of course, but from snow to record-shattering midsummer high temperatures and back to snow in a week. Wow. That's geoengineering.
And they've been doing this all along. When I was a kid, they used to do it all the time. We had in 1975, 76, somewhere around there, we had April snow. We had all of a sudden some warm weather, and then all of a sudden you had like 3-week period towards the end of April that all of a sudden we started getting, I think it was April 23rd or something like that, 75, 76. So we've been doing this all along. Back then though, the jets, it really hadn't started big until Reagan. Reagan started the upper atmosphere spraying very heavily, and he did it under a space alien bullshit story, outer space nonsense that you guys love, Richard and your friend here. You guys still believe that nonsense that in outer space what they told you it is and all that kind of shit. And that's what they used. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Space defense, I believe it is, or some shit like that. Something like that.
That's from climate engineering, and they can, when they spray, Richard, have you seen mountains that have, the ski slope is covered with snow, but the whole mountain is bare? You've seen that before, probably, right?
Yes.
So this is that on a much larger scale, and when they seed the clouds with what's called chemical ice nucleating elements, and these are patented processes, it creates what's called an endothermic reaction, an energy-absorbing reaction, and that creates a cold air mass that descends to the surface because the cold air is more dense, and this chemical reaction can nucleate what should have been a liquid precipitation event, i.e. a rainstorm, into a frozen precipitation event. So, and I ask people to consider their first aid kit that might sit on their shelf for 20 years at room temperature. If you mix the cold pack together, the chemicals that are in a cold pack and a first aid kit, ice instantly. And that's what this is on a much larger scale, highly toxic, but this is literally engineered winter. And the Chinese government openly.
Okay, and the thing is, they've been having you for many years now, many years now. Every time you get a bad snowstorm in the northern United States, or any place that it snows on this earth for that matter, we go into this huge snow removal thing, right? It's good for the economy, it's good for everybody, keeps everybody in business, keeps the towns, cities working, and all that kind of shit, right? Salt in the roads, sand and salt in the roads. You know how much shit we're dropping when we're putting down that salt, when that ice melt, they calling it, right? You do understand, you guys understand that you've been watching the videos over the last 20 years of some places that have snow that lights on fire. They have water in their system that you can take a lighter to and actually get a flame out of the water or the snow that's dropping in their system and all that, right? You guys know all that shit. I mean, this shit's been going on for a long fucking time. Where the fuck is everyone? Still talking like it's coming someday, and if we don't do something about it, it's gonna come someday. It's already been here, a lot longer than you think. It's not just in the skies, it's right here on the ground as well. It's in the food, the water, the air, it's everything. We are the 7.8 billion zombie slaves that have allowed this to happen. I don't know.
Announced they were doing this. Your listeners can search Chinese government engineer snowstorm. Fox News covered it, Popular Science, MSNBC, ABC, but yet if it's brought up here, suddenly you're marginalized.
Again, they've done that all the time too. They do this shit all the time. They've had several concerts and very important things that they wanted to happen, and they admitted that we're going to go control the weather in order to do that. I talked a couple weeks ago about at the start of the Iraqi war, the Iraqis were freaking out because we had never sprayed over their skies before, you know, and then when they came out, military just laughs at them. You know, you don't know what condensation shows look like, people, you know, and that kind of thing.
So, I mean, what you're describing is and as we've seen, how there is this race to put everybody on a certain one power, electricity, to take away independent power such as wood burning stoves, which we're sort of planning in the UK, take away heat pumps and not heat pumps, gas, and replace them with heat pumps. And then if you're saying that effectively you could create winter whenever they damn well like and keep people cold, and they can then turn off the electricity so you can't heat your house, that's an enormous amount of control over millions of people worldwide.
You're absolutely correct. Let me make this point abundantly clear. Although the climate science community those that are for climate engineering would pretend this is something benevolent, that could not be further from the truth. Climate engineering in all its forms is about power and control, period. So if we go back, and I'll finish answering your question in a moment, but let's go all the way back the beginning to every weekly geoengineeringwatch.org on-air radio update. It's called Global Alert News. We post that for free at geoengineeringwatch.org. We pay for that airtime out of pocket on 22 radio stations around the country. That's 1 hour of the most dire data that we face, the most dire threats we face. But at the beginning of that broadcast, it's key. There's a 30-second, actually it's about a 15-second clip of former U.S. President Lyndon Johnson in 1962 on film, on the record, stating that we have the power to control the world's cloud layer then, in 1962, 61 years ago.
Wow.
And that quote, "He who controls the weather controls the world." His words, not mine. So they can shut off precipitation to agricultural regions, which they are absolutely doing. We're not guessing. We can see them. They're operating.
Problem is, you tell 7.8 billion zombie slaves what you just said, and you show them the video of the president at that time saying that, they think nothing of it. They think that, oh, he was just saying that. Nobody can control it. It's Mother Nature. It's God. Space aliens. Whatever. They have all kinds of bullshit stories set up in their in their conscious mind. In their lying minds.
operations on satellite imagery. They can flash freeze crops, which they just did in California for the 6th year in a row. They allow the temperatures to force early blooms, and then they flash freeze everything with a chemical surface cool down.
True.
This is not
They
an
do that all the
accident.
time.
We see it happening around the globe via either hail, drought, flash flooding, but they're hitting ag.
They do the same thing with burning up California, and they do that in other states too as well. But you'll see them do it in California. Why would they create laws that don't allow the owners of the property? First of all, they take away the owners of the properties because they say that they're under protected guidelines. Everything's protected, right? So even if you own 50, 60 acres, 150 acres, whatever you own for land, most of it's protected property and no one can get to it anymore. Anyways, they're allowed to walk on their own property, but they cannot disturb anything. I have friends in this position, even right here in Massachusetts, they're in that position. And they own these acreage and they're not allowed to do anything on it. They can't build on it. They can't even take out the dead trees out of it. If they get caught taking the dead trees out of it, they could be fined and arrested, taking the trees out of their own property. Well, they do this in California. And then, wouldn't you know it, every year you get these fucking big burn-ups and you get all these trees laying down on the ground. So, yeah, you can easily put together a lightning storm to up on the level that you guys are talking about, and then let a lightning bolt hit some dry fucking wood because you did not allow it to rain in California for 3-4 weeks straight. Hot weather dries up the forest, and then you have a lightning storm. And then next thing you know, fucking California goes up. You got all them trees burning, going up into the atmosphere, all the carbons being used for what? To flood the next fucking state that they want to state as the natural current goes around. See, but because you think that you're on a spinning wet rocket ball, you have no idea what the electromagnetic current is doing, which way it's going, how it's working. We can know. All we gotta all do is just look, and we'll all know.
Regions very, very rapidly. In regard to the flash surface cooldowns, we've seen instances so extreme, Richard, that in fact in the U.S. on October 4th, 2013, in South Dakota, there was a flash snowstorm. Now, has anybody heard of a flash snowstorm before? A flash snowstorm that killed 100,000 cattle.